Welcome back to the To Be Decided podcast. We're back from a brief hiatus with a very special episode. We recorded this a few weeks ago with Eli from All Aboard the Hype Train, a podcast that reviews Transformers 5 every week. There's unfortunately some audio quality issues with this. There's a lot of crackling and stuff when Eli's talking, which is all on me because of the way we recorded it. But having Eli on was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So, I'm Joe. This is ProTag. You're Eli, correct?
Yeah, for podcast sake, that is exactly the best way to do it.
You've seen Transformers 5 on your show, The Hype Train. How many times have you watched it now?
The show is All Aboard the Hype Train. I have seen Transformers 5 17 times as of Monday.
Ooh.
Why do you do this to yourself?
Well, okay, so in my job, I spend a lot of time in my work truck, and so I listen to a lot of podcasts. And also, I have a friend of mine who we just sort of kind of grew apart with time. And there was a podcast I really liked called The Worst Idea of All Time, where two guys watched Grown Ups 2 every week for a year.
Oh, God.
And I thought it would be a fun thing to do, and I pitched it to my friend. He was like, this is stupid, but we can do it. And we started talking a little bit more about what the funniest movie for us to watch would be. And we settled on the best irony is to get all aboard the hype train for these cash grab, blatant attempts to steal your money movie franchises. And the only one that we could watch long enough to make it worthwhile ended up being either Justice League or Transformers. And we went with Transformers.
Ouch for the other pick.
So, I think what you're saying is Justice League is officially worse than Transformers.
I don't know if it's that. I think it's less of a funny option than Transformers.
I would agree to that, yeah.
In preparation, we watched Transformers 5 Friday night, which was awful.
It was really awful.
Yeah, Sean, one of the staples of our show is at the beginning, we decide whether or not we would recommend the movie. We start each record by asking that question. I think I've recommended it maybe 3 times. So,
just depending on how you feel another week.
Yeah, that's kind of it. It's how we feel. When you watch the same, especially this movie, over and over again, each watch becomes a little bit of a different adventure. So what did you guys think of it? I mean, you've seen it once, and you said you had some questions.
Well, first of all, I was drunk, but not nearly drunk enough, I think, to make this worthwhile.
I tried searching for a drinking game to make it worth it, and I couldn't find one.
God, it was all over the place, I think was the biggest thing, is it's just like, hey, Optimus Prime is up in space, and an hour later, oh, hey, Optimus Prime is still in space, cool. And characters were being introduced. There's the one guy from the task force, the weird, paramilitary task force. I'm pretty sure he died 3 or 4 times and just kept coming back. I swear to God, he died a couple of times on screen and then just came back.
The movie, what really works for us is it is all over the place. At this stage, the first couple watches, we were like, haha, this will be fun. And then we got really depressed. And now we're in a weird area where we know how to engage with the movie. We know how to fight it. The fact that it's horribly confusing and a giant mess works tremendously to our advantage because now everything is an elaborate fan theory we have to decode.
So, I guess, as the closest thing that there may ever be to a Transformers 5 expert, can you give us a brief rundown of the movie, and what do you think it means?
Okay, now that's a twofold question. Do you want a brief rundown of the movie that you see on film or the movie that I'm watching at this point?
Let's do the movie that you're watching at this point.
The movie I'm watching at this point is about it's about a planet that's being slowly eaten alive by its own mechanization. And its people have gone to the next place, which is essentially a fuel stopover. And they've splintered into 2 factions, one which respects the sentient life there, and one which values their own planet as a priority to this backwoods know-nothing place. And that civil war has ripped their people asunder. There's political intrigue on the human side where a man who hates Transformers for ruining his life and might be messing around with time itself, his operation is being infiltrated by a global paramilitary organization that is either started as a Trump re-election campaign or alternatively is a Tesla's robot factory, forcing their competition to be illegal. And they've paired up with a lady who actively also hates Transformers and is torturing one and has removed his vocal cords so he can no longer beg for mercy. And a lot of them are on a global adventure, apropos of nothing, as decided by Merlin the Wizard, who is hid in secrecy for 2,000 years.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's the movie I'm watching now.
That's definitely a more interesting movie than what I saw.
Oh, yeah. It's way better.
So, my main question for you is right now, and we didn't write this down, but it's, how did you take... I don't know if you've seen all of them up to this one. How have you taken the most retconning that they've ever done in this one?
Well, the thing is, we didn't watch the fourth one. So, like, I've seen one... I'm pretty sure I've seen two. I'm fairly certain I saw three. I know I didn't see four. And so what we basically do is just treat it like a clean slate. We're not pretending that like the other ones existed at all, really.
Well, I mean, yeah, since I've actually seen 1, 2, and 3 and a little bit of 4, but I fell asleep. It wasn't at a theater though, so we're good there. They like got rid of a bunch of people's backstories just out of nowhere for like no reason and just gave them new ones. Like Bumblebee being there for World War II and shit like that is like, okay, what the fuck?
Well, there's a lot of that in the movie, and then there's other bigger stuff, like the idea that, what the fuck did we learn? We learned real recently that, oh my god. Barricade dies in the fourth movie. He straight up gets killed, and the only reason he's in the fifth one is due to fan demand.
Barricade's the...
And then also in the fourth movie, I guess the same plot is that Cybertron comes to Earth. That's also the plot of the fourth one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
And Megatron gets transformed into Galvatron. So this movie just gets rid of all that. So we're just kind of going with the evidence presented in the film, and then some timetables that make a level of sense. Like, Colonel Lennox is the American military operative guy that's hanging out with the PRF for reasons, ? He's in the first movie, which takes place in, like, conservatively, we'll say 2010. Yeah. But he's also in this movie, which we know from basic math takes place in 2084. So that puts him at, like, 103 years old.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Wow, I
yeah,
didn't think about that.
And fucking Witwicky is, like, referenced, like, 3 times in this movie.
Yeah, but he's not in it, which at least makes sense.
It's kind of a shame, because I feel like this is the perfect franchise for Shia LaBeouf now.
And his craziness?
Well, if they had cast the Beef instead of Anthony Hopkins for that role, Sean and I have said multiple occasions that would make the movie so much better. Like, if Sam Witwicky, like, went off the grid, then lost his fucking mind, and then started, like, hoarding secret documents about, like, Transformers history.
So then pretty much being who was playing the character? Whatever, the old dude that me and Joe kept laughing at because he just, like, magically started teleporting in the movie, and we're just like, what the fuck? God damn it.
Oh, you just said his name, too, and now I'm blanking.
Anthony Hopkins?
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, he's basically Anthony Hopkins' character. Yeah, we hit on that. The thing about it is it's not just the watch. Like, watching a movie over and over is fine. It's the hour-long discussion. Like, I've talked about Transformers 5 in depth for 16 hours.
Holy fuck.
With guests that we've had on and guests that we're planning to have on. Like, we're going to have one of the RLM guys come on.
Oh,
so that would be really cool.
Who are you getting?
From Red Letter Media.
Like who?
I don't know if I want to spoil it too much, but I can definitely say that if we can make the timetable work out, it's not going to be Micro J, which is fine, but, you know.
I don't think they just make fun of fucking Transformers anyways. I don't think they've even seen the recent ones. So,
Well, yeah, I described it to him because he was wondering like if he had to watch it, and I was like, I'd recommend it if you're going to come on the show. I described it to him as uniquely baffling because the thing that is still the most confusing to us is how after $210 million it still looks the way it still is structured the way it
like
is.
even some of the effects, like Protag pointed out, there's a point with when Anthony Hopkins gets in a car, there's still blue screen behind him. Like they just didn't edit out the blue screen.
yeah, I was getting so bored that I was looking in the backgrounds for like small imperfections and like at some points when they're driving cars, there's blue screens in the background, not like buildings or anything.
Like it's amazing.
It's not surprising.
How do you spend that much money? And we forgot to edit out blue screen.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, and from what we can tell, nobody really gave a shit. Like,
Oh, we'll get millions of dollars anyways back. Just fucking put it in.
Yeah. Oh. So, do you have a favorite scene from Transformers 5?
It's pretty decisively agreed that the best sequence in the movie is the opening King Arthur bit, which, if you're watching the movie one time, appears at face value to be the worst because it doesn't make any sense. It has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. It's like apropos of nothing, seemingly, and goes nowhere. But cinematically and from like a choreography perspective, it is hands down the best sequence in the film. So, like, that opening thing, we relish the 10 minutes that we get each movie with it.
So I've got a question about that. Maybe it ties more into King Arthur than Transformers, but when Merlin first goes up to the spaceship cave thing, he's talking to the Transformer in there and says, "Nah, I haven't told anybody your secret. Nobody knows about you. Give me a dragon, please." And then he gets a dragon. But later, it shows King Arthur at the round table with all of his knights, and then all of the Transformers behind him. So is that before or after the dragon? It's got to be after, right?
The knights turn into the dragon, and there's a toy that's terrible. But the knights turn into the dragon, so I think the sequence of events there is Merlin's like a street type magician, like he does sleight of hand tricks to convince people he has magic powers. And that's coerced him on to this like round table of people, and then he stumbles across these robots, assumedly, and then they give him a staff, I guess, that lets them turn into a dragon for reasons to help him? ? And then later on, they're just honorary knights of the round table, but they're still totally secret, and also that knowledge has never escaped ancient times, which is weird, because you'd really think if King Arthur was flanked by like a dozen 15-foot tall metal men, people would have talked about that shit. Like, they wouldn't have let that go ever. Like, fuck, dragons are real, but mostly he had giant metal men. Like, I can't stress to you enough how giant these things were.
Wasn't there like an entire like museum scene where the one of the female leads is making fun of the whole fact that there was dragons or something and that they don't exist or whatever?
Right, that there's no evidence of them. Which is the weirdest part, because according to like Transformers history, the Earth is just like lousy with like crashed spaceships. So I mean, somebody would have fucking figured this out before.
Yeah, because in the third movie, don't they go to a pyramid and it's full of Transformers? Or has a Transformer in it? That's
my recollection is that in the second movie, the pyramid is a giant blue laser that destroys the Earth. ? I don't exactly remember what it does. I do know it is a giant blue laser.
But Joe, don't you remember in this one, the pyramid gets destroyed again anyways, so...
Yeah, I feel like they've...
And there's no machine inside of it, so...
It just gets destroyed.
I don't know or remember the pyramid being a laser, but I also feel like that's a thing that probably happened.
Probably.
I'm not about to weigh in either way on that. I'm just, giving my 2 cents on it. I'm a Transformers 5 expert. Transformers 2 archaeologist.
That's a good way of putting it, I guess.
So out of the entire movie, do you have a least favorite scene?
I don't like anything where Isabella is talking. I think her character is really irrelevant to the plot. A lot of what she says is overly forced and like hammy to try to build this faux relationship, and it's not given the time it needs to develop it. So the movie's just like, oh, you're having troubles because you're meeting. Turns out you're best friends. Okay, bye. We're going to literally abandon you for an hour in this other part of the movie we're just not going to talk about anymore.
Yeah, she does. I forgot she existed until she just shows up on the plane at the end. It's like, oh, hey, remember me?
Yeah, I don't like anything with her in it just because it's like she's got a smart mouth, haha, now we're friends. The whole thing feels really forced. Like, she's a fine actress. It's just
I'm really disappointed that the small blue robot she was with never turned into a moped that she then ran into battle with. Like, just charging into battle on a blue moped, that would have been amazing.
Squeaks is a torture victim, and I'll thank you to be kind to him.
There are several major plot holes, but there was one specifically I wanted to bring up. Plot features.
Features.
The submarine. Is the submarine a transformer?
Sure, that's a good way to describe it. Sean believes that the submarine is a Grimlock-like scenario, where there was a time when it could definitely turn into a robot, but it has either gone robot senile or has been like poisoned in some way. So it just keeps being whatever it turned into and not as a true robot.
Because, yeah, it drives itself, and I'm expecting it to turn into a robot and start fighting shit, and it just never does.
It just stays a sub.
Well, they even say it's a transformer in the movie, like, because it jumps the moorings and
it jumps,
drives itself.
Oh yeah, I guess they did say it was. I just didn't remember that part because it was like a one cut scene is like
the idea.
It's a transformer, the sub's a transformer, and then it cuts back just being the sub, and it's like, oh,
yeah, it's a lot of that. Yeah, it's definitely a robot, but the best solution we've got so far is it thinks it's a submarine.
So, you're building up to the standalone Bumblebee movie, right?
We're getting hyped.
Now,
yes.
Is that going to be a World War II movie, or is that just Bumblebee doing Bumblebee adventures somewhere else?
All the evidence we've seen so far leads us to believe it's going to be like a 60s, 70s era thing. And he's probably going to be a bug, so it'll probably feel like a Herbie fully loaded type movie. But Sean's hopes and dreams are that it's a World War II retelling, and I'm going to be honest, that'd be a really good film. I would watch it.
I think the most exciting part of the movie is where Bumblebee is killing Nazis, and his mysterious friend that's also killing Nazis.
That guy is Hot Rod.
I don't know who that is. Is he...
The Lamborghini. It's the Lamborghini in Bumblebee.
Well, that kind of makes sense now. The Lamborghini that can mysteriously stop time, right?
Yeah, the time gun's responsible for a lot of fuckery that happens in that movie. Because it's the only way to explain a number of things.
Now, I'd like to point out, it makes sense that the Bumblebee movie is a prequel, because even though the good guys quote-unquote win in the end, the Earth is completely destroyed because a planet crashed into it.
Yeah, one of our podcast goals, confidentially, is to try to get somebody with astrophysics experience on the show to weigh in on just how bad that is for Earth. Because it looks really alarmingly bad.
It hits the moon, so the moon is gone, so there's going to be some sort of flooding, I assume. I don't know how gravity still worked there for a little while. Like, in theory, shouldn't both planets be fighting each other for gravity? I feel like everyone should be dead, is basically how this movie's supposed to end.
There's a lot where, like, that scale, the sense of just how massive of an event that is, I don't think is accurately translated. and it only is in like a few offhanded lines. So when this is how well I know this movie. When Jimmy and Isabella are in the trailer observing that Cybertron is crashing in, you can hear in the background some of the newscasters say projected millions dead, and it's going to be like a quote global killer. But none of that's really adequately described, and I really think that like some of the shit you've seen underplays just how terribly catastrophic.
Yeah, like I've seen Armageddon. I know what happens when giant asteroids hit the Earth.
Oh Jesus.
Good understanding, but like even that really pales
A planet just smacking into Maybe that's just the Transformers 6, or I guess Transformers 7. They're going to pick up this storyline, and humanity's just going to have to figure out how to migrate. Like, there's not going to be any Transformers. It's like, how do we live on Mars now? Because our planet is completely ruined.
No, you're getting it wrong. Marky Mark is going to become the president of the world.
God.
So, President Marky Mark is going to have to deal with an uprising in a Mad Max-style post-apocalyptic wasteland, and that is that's a Transformers movie I'd like to see.
Mad Max Transformers, that would be amazing. You've got Immortan Joe.
Or Megatron's like the good guy because he is.
So you think Megatron's the good guy?
I think that there's enough evidence in the movie to paint Megatron in a real positive light, and conversely for all the Autobots.
But in the end, doesn't he also just try doing what Optimus does anyways?
If you look at the way... So, forget the way it's presented, just think about the actions. Megatron is saying that his people and his planet is more important to him than another planet full of... What would an equivalent be is like dogs. It's like, we find a planet and it's made of dogs, and the only way for Earth to survive is for us to kill this planet covered in dogs. Well, yeah, okay, fine, save Earth. So that's what he's trying to do, but then along the way, he doesn't harm any humans or any animals or even any robots, and a bunch of his guys get gruesomely murdered, and he still doesn't, like, seek revenge. He's a very, like, forgiving, merciful, passionate guy.
He is a pretty level-headed villain, I think. Like, so another scene that confused and upset me was the whole lawyer negotiation scene. Like, why?
I think they just put that in to put that in, really, at this point.
Like, why would a robot be beholden to any sort of human laws? This 40-foot robot that can murder everybody.
So you have a couple answers. You can have the production answer, or you can have the in-universe answer, or I'll give you both.
Let's go with both.
All of them, yeah.
The production answer is Suicide Squad was big at the time. So some guy walked into the offices where they were making that movie and was like, Suicide Squad's big, let's do something like that. And Michael Bay, who just wants out of this franchise, is like, fine, fuck it, we'll just, sure. He gets a bunch of people out like Suicide Squad of jail. And they're like, cool, haha, so funny. Because they didn't care, they didn't
Actually, now that you say that, I do see the similarities mainly do with the whole text of what they're called and shit too, yeah.
It's got, like, music. It looks like the terrible Suicide Squad style music video with intros. And that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, wow, this seems a lot like Suicide Squad.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. And that's a good way you can also cut a trailer to make it look like Suicide Squad. So Suicide Squad's big. You cut that trailer, it looks like that. You cut another trailer where it looks like a different movie because you can do that however many times you feel like for this film. But the in-universe answer I would give is that Megatron, while he doesn't value them over his own planet, respects Earth's laws and customs enough to at least want to negotiate with them to free his own folks. And then he probably tells them to comply because if you're immune to bullets, I mean, what are you going to? How are you going to let 9 dudes lock you in prison?
Also, why does the Transformer need to rob a bank?
I think Dreadbot was really making a statement about welcome.
I think the biggest takeaway I have is that from Megatron's point of view, this is just basically a Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
Like on that note, we're going to wrap it up. You can check out Eli's show, All Aboard the Hype Train. You guys are on all of the podcast platforms, right? iTunes.
Stitcher, iTunes, and then, I don't know, anywhere you grab those at.
Joe here. I just want to give a quick shout out to Eli from the All Aboard the Hype Train podcast. You should definitely check out their show. It's a lot of fun to listen to. You can find it on iTunes, Podbean, wherever you regularly get podcasts from. Also, quick housekeeping announcement. As we announced a few weeks ago, ProTag is out of town this month, which means I'm all on my own. So we're going to do some different stuff. Next week, I'm going to be telling you a story about a time I played a video game, so look forward to that. Thank you for listening.